Hello, hello. How's it going? Happy Thursday. I had to think about that, sorry. Hi, Elena. Hey, Margaret, how's it going? Sorry, it's still a little echoey in here. I'm working on it. Hi, Nancy, how's it going? This is kind of a part two to that. I think it was my first quick fit that I did. First one? I think so. But more of, I got a lot of blouses, different ones than you saw last time, and I'm going to show you what I would do if I was actually going to make something I've never made before and check it before I did. And I picked almost all things I've never made before, just so you could see what I would really do. And I didn't really check them or anything. I just got the patterns ready for you guys. So, hi Kathy, how's it going? Hi Kim, hi Rachel. Welcome, welcome. Hi Jenna, welcome. How's it going? Well, I know I'm like right on time, so I'll pause a little bit here. Everything look and sound okay? Lots of patterns on the table today. But the lighting looks okay for the paper. Usually it's tough. It's really tough to get the paper not to be too bright, you know? Hi Terry. That's funny. Yeah, it's a new routine. I know it's hard to get used to, get rid of. It's so funny because I spend so much time thinking about this stream and then it's like done and I'm like, why did I spend 20 hours thinking about that? I like to be prepared, even if it's a half-hour stream or more, maybe an hour. All right, so I'm gonna get going. All right, so the other day, and I linked this video in the description, I showed you how I would compare a shirt. So say, and I did men's, I think I did men's shirts. Did I do any women's? I'm not sure. I just picked men's. I just picked something. And I wanted to show you, like, if I've never sewn a garment before, and I have sewn something kind of similar, but it's different enough that I want to make this other pattern. I will sometimes compare it to something I know, something good or bad, to know where I'm at with this new pattern. And I primarily focus on the shoulder width, the sleeve fit, and then like the bust circumference, maybe the length and the hip. I feel like that's everything. But you know what I mean. It just depends on what you're comparing. I wouldn't say pick a cut-on sleeve and compare that to a button-up shirt. I mean, maybe if you're like, I really like the hem circumference of this cut-on sleeve shirt I wear all the time, then yeah, I would use that as a guide for like a circumference amount, right? Hi, Justine. And that's something different. I do that all the time. I like to call those default measurements. And we had a whole thing in another quick fit that was in the guild, one of the pay groups, where I gave everybody like a little booklet and you can fill in these things that you're like, I know I always like my hip circumference to be this, or I know I always like my sleeve length to be this. For a t-shirt, for a button-up, for a cut-on sleeve, for whatever, right? You could have lots of them. And then you'd have some sort of guide, right? This is what I'm doing here is a little different. This is like a whole pattern. I'm getting a kind of a general feel for it. And I picked something that's usually similar with the armhole. The armhole rules everything. It doesn't matter if this was a tented blouse, and I was comparing it to something like what I'm wearing today, I would still look at the shoulders because that's kind of what I call like the hanger, right? It's where your garment hangs from, and you want that to be right. And that's why like I've sort of switched to saying, you know, pick, if you know the high bust measurement of a pattern, pick your size based on the high bust because it's closer to getting that shoulder measurement correct, right? So, hi Andrea, how's it going? So anyway, this right here, this pattern is mine. It's self-drafted. It's what I'm wearing. This is a different sleeve. This is just a cap sleeve, whereas I'm wearing something gently gathered and goes into a cuff band. This was the shirt I was wearing during this first stream that I do. Oh, hey Ray, how's it going? We haven't seen you in forever. So this would be sort of, I sort of use this as it's a few steps away from a sloper. My sloper is not like this, right? My sloper doesn't have any style lines on it, but it is a really similar shape and silhouette and fit. And I love this little blouse, and I riff on it all the time and make different things. So this is my go-to for comparing things. And if you have something that's like your go-to shirt, or something you're like, oh, I hate the fit of this thing, I want to make sure what I'm about to make is nothing like this, that's always a good place to start too. So here we have the Athena blouse. And so I have a bunch of different patterns. Some of them you've probably never seen before. Maybe you have, I don't know. I felt like this is a good one. I've never made this before. I've had it for a long time, but I couldn't get the file to print until I sent it somewhere. It's the Athena blouse by Stocks. I had all the links and then I closed them, sorry. So here is the pattern pieces. She has this checkerboard design on it. It has this really big collar, so you can see I folded the collar in half, right? And then I overlapped it, and you can see that it gives you a center front measurement here. See it right here, center front. And so I know that I can stack these center fronts on top of each other, right? This actually isn't that crucial for this pattern. I'm just doing it as a demonstration on how I always make the patterns whole before I move on from there, right? And then here's this big inset. You can see this big cutout right here. It's got a kind of a princess seam, more like a panel. And so I would lay this on here, overlapping it at the seam allowance, line up my center front here, and then I have a whole front, right? Something to sort of go by. And then I also have my princess seam, my princess panel here. Now this one, oh, they do that thing I hate where they give you a left and a right of the same pattern. So when you're comparing princess seams, you can see, let's say I'm gonna overlap on, what size is that? Well, we'll overlap on this largest size here. Now when I do that, and I overlap at the hem and the armhole, do you see we get this fisheye right here? There's the dart, right? So that's your dart. You can tell there's your shaping right there. So if you didn't want a dart, this is basically how you'd get rid of it. Doesn't work for everything, but there you go. There's your dart. And so now I can take my front. I have my center front here, right? And I can start to get an idea of the circumference at least. I can't really get an idea of the armhole because I haven't taped this to the back yet. Remember how I showed you, tape the shoulders together, fold it around, overlap the side seam, and then you can kind of get an idea of what this armhole depth is, where that shoulder seam is. Because what if this shoulder seam on this pattern came really far forward and you started basing all these things off of where that shoulder position was? That wouldn't be good, right? Or what if you learned it's way on your back or something? So, all right, so let's do that. I can then do my, I'll just overlap it. I have like all the sizes here, so it's a little chaotic. I was about to make this the other day and I can't remember. Oh, I didn't have enough fabric. It took a lot more than I thought. So then I can, let's just do it this way. Oops, sorry. Hey Aisha, how's it going? Okay, so we can get this side seam pinned, right? Pinning will be a little easier in this case. My number one thing, like I say, is always checking the armhole and the sleeve. I'm really particular about that. Some people are particular about other things, right? So here we have it. I can most likely just take this crazy collar off because it's pretty big, right? All right, and so now when I fold this up here, like this, you can see that the shoulder seam is actually pretty close to being right on top of the shoulder. It's kind of rare actually. And now I can kind of look at my blouse and go, all right, how are we in comparison? I'm gonna have to do the opposite side here. This has a side bust dart, and I would normally close that as well. And overlap this on the seam line here. I use a lot of removable tape. We'll just do, so I'm gonna leave my dart undone there. That's okay. All right, so now you can see my shoulder seam on this is much further forward. It's not gonna lay flat because the dart's not sewn. But you see how here's this little dash right here, in between this line and this line, that's my shoulder seam. So if I were to line up that shoulder seam on the other one, it would have been way off, right? But we can line up this fold here and we can see, look how much higher my armhole is. So if I wanted to use the fit of my sleeve and the fit of my armhole, I could transfer it to this pattern. And I would line up things on the centers. So I'm gonna put my center back. Not sure, oh, I don't have the center back fully assembled. We'll put the center front on here, right? The circumference is actually pretty close. This blouse I'm wearing is pretty fitted. You can see I have a really huge dart right here, right? So this blouse is a little looser. It looks looser in the photos, right? You can see it on her, it kind of gently falls like a tunic, right? And the bust looks pretty close to, well, it's a little wider actually. If I line up my center front, this is my center front right here. So this one's a little bigger. And the thing is, like, I didn't pick the size that I would sew. So there's that. So now what if I wanted to transfer this armhole? And you can see, look at how far away the shoulder is here. Oops. Let's do it again. That shoulder's way out there. And let's see, would I agree with that? Like looking at the photo, I do a little detective work sometimes. I'll look at the photo on the website, and I did notice that there was a lot of drag lines right here on most of the people wearing this. And the space between like the princess seam and the armhole was a little baggy on most people. So there's potentially some fitting I could do there to sort of cinch it up if I want, unless I kind of want that suit coat sort of vibe for the upper part of the garment right here. I'm not a big fan of these drag lines, and that's just usually a shoulder angle shaping issue. So, but see how this collar takes up some of the space between the bodice and the neck right here. This collar, it's actually described as being a bit chaotic. Oh, it doesn't say it on this thing, but it says it's got built-in chaos. So it's never gonna like lay flat or roll down the same probably in every fabric and on every person. So it looks more tame in the line drawing there, right? So it says in the third pair. Oh, there it is right there. I thought the word chaos was over here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go, yeah. So I don't think I noticed that when I bought this. I am honestly not the biggest fan of chaos in my garments. I really wanted, I got this bias cut dress from her, and I think there must have been like a thing happening where you bought two at the same time, and I picked this one. So, hi, how's it going? All right, so we have all this collar. Look at all this collar. Wait, let's just move her way out there, right? Look at all this collar we have right here, right? So we have this, and it goes between the neck or the seam of the garment and the neck, right? So if we were to believe this right here, if we were to stack our centers one on top of the other, and on the garment, right? And line up our shoulders. This shoulder seam is pretty far away from the neck. And this looks kind of dropped. So maybe it's fairly broad shouldered. I'm not sure if I would believe it was that much. It could be that this collar and the way it's sewn with this little yoke thing sort of shapes it and pulls it up. I don't know. Maybe this is why we're seeing the vertical drag line. You just never know, right? Until you actually sew it. But this does give me an idea of like, okay, do I want to take a chance and transfer my armhole onto this when it's so different? Or do I want to maybe do a muslin and check it out? And I usually would do a muslin, right, on something like this, something that's very unique to me. But let's say it was more like this different, right? Something like that, where we're just seeing about 3/4 of an inch hanging out. My armhole is higher. My armhole is always going to be higher than almost all patterns because I fit mine really tight up here. So I would add paper to all 3 of these pieces, the front, the side front, and the back. And then I would trace my armhole onto this piece. Now, the trick is right here. You can see that this bust is further out than mine. See, mine's right here. Here's this one. You're like, that's no big deal, Saremy. That's a big deal. You never ignore anything. It's okay if you're working on your own pattern and you're ignoring 1/8 of an inch, fine. If you're ignoring anything over that, don't come crying later when things aren't working out, okay? That's just how it is. I am the first to have been really cavalier on all these things along the way, and now I sound like a home ec teacher, and I'm not going to apologize for it. They were right, okay? So let's say we're like, I don't want to lose the circumference of this new blouse I'm making. I'm not trying to make my blouse. I'm trying to make their blouse. But I still want this seam line here. That's immovable. This is always going to be right here on me, and that's where I want it. I don't want this to be dropped. And I transfer this armhole on here, and I can use my sleeve. But if I want to keep this circumference of this blouse, then I would trace my armhole onto this and then extend this the same amount here. Give myself that same circumference there, right? So we're adding paper in here. You want to tape these pieces of paper to each pattern piece individually. Don't tape one to this and one to both of these, because then when you draw in, your new sleeve line, let's say it's like this, whatever my pattern was, right? And then that's my pattern, right? But we're going to go out to here, right? We're going to add this little bit here. When you cut this off and take away this excess paper, these will be attached to each other. That's why you always want to tape the paper on each piece individually, all right? So now let's say this is where we're at, right? We have this. So now my sleeve doesn't match perfectly because we've added this little bit here, right? We've added this. So let's do our sleeve. Are you guys following this? Like, am I going like too fast, or is it too not detailed enough? Okay, so here's the sleeve. This sleeve is honestly why I couldn't cut it out, because it's huge. Look how much I have folded up. I have all this folded up. You can see. I don't have short arms, but I don't have long arms. So, all right, so let's say I, cool, thank you. Transferred my armhole to this, right? We've trimmed off of the shirt at that spot, right? Because I brought in the shoulders, but I'm sticking with the circumference of the blouse. So what I can do here is I can line this up. Let's see where I would line this up. I think in this case, let me think about this for a second. So we're gonna bring that in like that. I would line this up onto this pattern piece right here at the underarm here. But then I would have to add to each side. I know it looks like, but wait, Saremy, it's the same circumference there. But the the armhole line isn't the same. It got longer. And so we need to add a little bit here. And so I would add a little bit of paper to my sleeve on each side, right? And if I added this much, that's what I would do. I would be very literal about it. I would add that same amount that I went out to, and then I'd blend it in to this current sleeve here, just like this, right? So now we have my cap onto their sleeve. So we know that this sleeve is gonna fit that shoulder line, the one I drew on there. We're just maintaining the circumference of the garment. So we went out here. Now my sleeve, this sleeve right here, probably looks a little funny if you're looking closely. It has a lift in it, and it also has a forward shoulder. So here's the center line. You can see there's more front on the side of this line. Maybe you guys don't notice that, but I just want to say that just in case someone's like, what's wrong with her sleeve? Nothing's wrong with my sleeve. It's perfect. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to show you, that I would just add that. So then we're kind of blending the two, and then I can just keep the rest of this pattern down here. And then if you're in doubt, cut a muslin, because the muslin's worth a million words, right? So, all right, so let's go to a different pattern. We'll keep our bodice here. You guys have any questions? Okay, so, oh, here's a good one. I love how my mouse will just be abandoned over there. It's like upside down, rolling around. Okay, so this is the Lenox dress. This is another one that I've always wanted to make. I have a soft spot in my heart for shirt dresses. This is by Cashmerette. The style lines have a princess seam on the bust. There is a collar option or a non-collar option. Open neck right here, right? High-waisted, obviously, right? Look at that waist seam. It's right below the bust. Good to know. This bodice I'm wearing, I think it'd be perfect to compare to this garment here. So let's see what we got. Oh, I thought I trimmed this one. I didn't trim it. You're very nervous. Yeah, you know, I think if you are, Ray, I would cut it out and test it out and see what you think. Because you can always change it, right? As long as you are making a muslin. And until you start kind of getting the hang of like what to trust and what not to trust. And just remembering, like, we're lining it up centers and shoulder line, right? We have these two triangulations. And then we know, well, the shirt can't go, you know, any further past that, right? So if I'm on the center, your center is immovable, right? The true 0-0 point on a pattern is the center, front, and the waist. I use the neck a lot because I feel like the neck is just as fallible as the waist, and the neck moves less than the waist, person to person. But the waist never changes. It's just what the pattern, where the pattern's going to put it, right? And where you're wearing a waist seam on in relation to your waist, you know. I just had this really good question the other day, and they wanted to know why the finished length of the pattern. They said, oh, well, this says it was a pair of shorts. It said, oh, this pattern measures, it says the finished measurements say it's 16.5 inches long, but when I measure the pattern, it's already 16.5 inches long, and there's seam allowances, and I'm wondering, like, it's just gonna get shorter. And so I had to ask the pattern drafter, I said, is this measured from the waist on the body? Does it include the waistband? And what was the third one? I can't remember the third one. Or does it measure from the waist seam? And she went, oh, shoot. You know, because there's so many places, right? If you're looking at where something measures from, here we have a person, right? This is what they said. They said, these shorts measure 16 inches long. The shorts measure 16 inches long in the finished measurements on the chart. But the pattern piece itself, it measures 16 inches long, and there's seam allowances on this pattern. So when I sew it, it's going to be shorter. So, right, it's going to be, there's a hem, there's a seam allowance there. So my question was to the pattern director, are these measuring 16 inches long from the belly button of the person, not the belly button, but the waist of the person to the hem? That's one. Is it measuring from the waist seam to the hem? That's two. Does it include the waistband? That's three. Right? There's a lot of different ways to look at some of these things when you're looking for that 0 point. It's very, oh, you can't see. I'm sorry. Oh, I can't grab it. Oh, there we go. Sorry. You can't see. Poor Terry, man. Look at her. She's struggling there. She's shouting at me as quick as she can. Okay, so here, let me do it again. So here, this is what she said. She goes, okay, here's the belly button, right? She said, these shorts, they measure 16 inches. That's what the chart says. And then my question was, are they measuring from the wearer's natural waist to the finished hem? Right? That's one. Is it measuring from the waist seam of the shorts? That's two. Is it measuring from top of the waistband to the hem? That's three. Right? There's like three different ways you could measure you could offer this measurement to the public, and when you say, these shorts measure 16 inches long. Right? So having this like 0 point, are you talking about the garment? Are you talking about the person? And what's movable and what's not? Your center isn't movable. The center on your body is always the center on your body. Thank goodness, right? We have one thing we can always count on. So if you're if you're nervous about something and you're measuring something and you're like, but I don't know, like making that huge of a shoulder line change. If you're measuring that garment from center out, that's immovable, right? Center out, that's immovable on both of them. It can't change. The shoulder line, that could be anywhere, right? It could be out here, it could be here, it could be here. And if you like it here and you transfer it to that garment, I can see how you could be nervous about that, but at least you have that to fall back on, right? You know, like I measured from center back, like I measured from my centers. This is how it is. And then you could do a muslin and kind of reassure yourself, because that's what I would do. I would reassure myself. So, all right, so now we have this Lenox. And this is why I don't go like this, right? Look at this sleeve. This is this sleeve. Like if you look at me, I mean, this has puffs, right? But you saw my blouse with the sewing machines on it that I wore 2 weeks ago. It looks like it fits a lot like this Lenox does, right? Like really close, right? It looks a lot like that blouse. This is that sleeve. They obviously don't fit the same, right? Like if I line up this underarm here, but that's not even a good spot because we know that I like a really high underarm. So let's measure it the proper way. All right, so we have our center back, or this is our center front, and our side back. So we're gonna line it up again. And I usually, at first, I will line up the princess seam. Let's move some of this out of the way. I will line it up here first at the armhole, or if it's a shoulder princess seam, I line it up there first. I start from the top and go down. But then when I want to know the waist, I will line it up down here and go, all right, what's my waist circumference, right? And you can see there's our armhole dart, right? If we line it up here, there's our waist dart right there, right? So we can kind of see, even if we're lining it up onto this pattern, how much of a dart is this taking? If this was a really tiny, tiny dart, we would know this was a looser fit. If it's a bigger dart, it's going to fit a little bit closer unless something's off balance. So, which happens. All right, so we have our side front, so let's just line this up. And then we have our back, and there's a yoke. I thought I had all these done, but I guess this one escaped me too. Okay, so this one has a little yoke. So we have the center back on the side back here. We have the yoke right here. So we've made our piece whole, and I would line all this up with a ruler, make sure it was all good. In fact, oh, this is on the fold too. Oh, interesting. Okay, perfect. All right, and then I line up the shoulder, line it up on the seam line, sew it together. I used to sew these with my machine. It's a little extra, to be honest. Let's get rid of some of this. And now I'm going to line up that underarm point there, which you probably can't see, and let my shoulder fold right there. It's going to be a little harder to pull this onto the center because look at all this shaping, right? So if I were to pull this onto the center like this and pull it over so that I'm getting it parallel to the center there, or yeah, or at least parallel. This isn't the center line, by the way. I don't know where the center line is on this. I think this has a placket. Does this have a placket going down the center front? Because I would need that usually. It's a separate placket? I thought it was built on. Okay. So that placket on there, the middle of that placket would be the center of the garment. So I would take my placket on and then I would know the center, right? And so right now that's why you're seeing this extend past the center back, because my guess is that with the placket on there and everything, this would actually just coincidentally end up being the center because of the seam allowance they use. They use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so it'd be good. Hi Amy, how's it going? So here we have, right, so if we pull this over, right, look at how much this overlaps right here. See that? There's our shaping, right? So if we pulled this up and overlapped it like that, then you're getting your volume of the dress, right? Okay, so here we have our top here. So let's look at this on my garment here. So I'm gonna line up my centers right there, line up my fold line. Let's just make this fold. There you go. Like that. Right, and so now we have this lined up on the center. Right here's the center, right here. I line up this on the center, line up this fold here, like that. And I can kind of see that the armholes are really similar. Theirs is a little bit higher. And then the shoulder line is actually really similar as well. When I get like this, when it's really close like this, you see that? Like if you watch this curve and look at mine, it's pretty close, right? I probably wouldn't change this because it's such a close fitting garment that if it's close enough, like if it's within like 1/4 of an inch or like 6 millimeters, I'm probably not going to mess around with it, because when something's that close fitting and it's already that close in comparison, you might be altering design lines that you don't want to alter, right? You're after this garment because of the way it looks. You like the way it looks. So that's probably good. Can I explain why the sleeves look so different? No, I can't. All I can say is if that's the shoulder line there, that means the caps almost line up perfectly like this. Now I can explain it. So let's hide this right here. Oh, this is also, their sleeve is flipped. Normalize making rights and lefts. This actually might be. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. They do a left, I do a right. Okay, so here we go. So this is their back of the sleeve, right? So we could pretty much line up the cap pretty close. And so what information this gives me is this is their sleeve right here, right? You can see my hand there. Is my sleeve has more across the bicep here. Their sleeve is really fitted. It almost looks like the wrong size. And I think there's a band on the bottom. That's why it looks so short. That's crazy short though. But look at that. Because of the really high underarm, you can fit it really closely. That's good. So there's hope here. And it does look like a really fitted sleeve when you look at the photo. Let's look at it one more time. It has a little cuff, so that's what gives it its length. It sits right on top of the shoulder there. So yeah, I would probably take a chance on this. The only other thing I would probably look at, like without changing, that's the chance I mean, is we can look at the waist position, right? So do you see right here, you can see my darts right here. This is the, like the midpoint of my darts where my waist is. And this sits just above the waist, so that looks roughly accurate. Cashmere stuff, it's pretty good, so I'm not too surprised. This is much longer, obviously. So this one I would probably stick with this. This looks pretty close to what I'm looking for in the fit. You love to see it. Now I want to make that. All right, so let's see. I have 2 button-ups and I didn't get the pierced shirt ready. I was gonna get the pierced shirt and compare it to the Mellow Low since they're both cut-on sleeves. All right, so I've never sewn this one. The Muna and Broad. I'm gonna just show you this shirt because we all know I cannot say the title of this shirt. The Tarawi shirt. The Tarawi shirt. That's not bad. I'm doing pretty good. The Tarawi. Oh my goodness. This shirt right here. Classic button up, very loose. Tarawi. Like tearaway. I also have trouble saying Pueblo. Tearaway. Okay, so I have my Archer button up. So we'll do a head-to-head. Here is, this one is the Archer by Grainline Studio. I've had this pattern for a while. I've made lots of iterations of it. Also, classic button-up, I would say the Tearaway is more loose-fitting. And there's different, you can make different ease amounts on the blouse. I learned that yesterday. So, but really similar, you know, button up. I noticed the collar is really open on the Tearaway. Ooh, I'm getting good. The Archer has a view with a back little like peplum skirt thing I've never used. Oh, a sommelier. I can say that. That one's fine. I used to have a friend, a really good best friend, and she was herself Pueblo. Nope. Native American. Oh my gosh, I was 12 years old, you guys, and it was such a hard word for me. I don't know what's wrong with me, but whatever. Anyway, enough of my weird idiosyncrasies. All right. So I have changed the Archer to fit me over the years. I've had it for a while. I've never made this one here, and I've wanted to. Just cleaning things up here a little bit. So let's compare these two. I added the side bust dart. The Archer doesn't come with one. There's also apparently a left and a right that I forgot about. So we'll just use one of them. Oh, I don't know. I've never seen that word before. Okay, let's use the other one because it's the correct one. This, incidentally, this shoulder is a really good example of when you make a change to a pattern, like say in the back, and you don't want to dart a shoulder dart right here. You can leave the shoulder larger and then you ease it into the front. They did the opposite here where you ease the front into the back shoulder. So I tell people that and they don't like that solution when I say just ease the shoulder into the front. They don't really like that. Oh, actually, this is different. When you're doing something that has a back pleat, you want to line your yoke up to the pleat. So right here, like that. There we go. And then we'll do our underarm there. Now, your side seam may not always be perfectly, like the front and the back may not be exactly the same width, right? Your front may be wider than your back, and that's okay. What I would do is just let it fold to the back. It just means you have more volume on the front or the back, depending on which one it is. That's okay. So the side seam can be in a few places. So I'm stacking mine there because it's working, basically. All right, so then we're gonna fold this. And now we have our shoulder line right here. And then let's do our other one here. Oh, this looks so short. And again, I'm gonna line it up to the pleat here. You see how there's a notch right here. This is such good practice for learning how your pattern goes together before you're sewing it. Because I think some people look at this and they go, I don't know how to put this together. And I get that. Like, I think the first few times I did it, I was like, but I have to know how this goes together. You're gonna have to know how it goes together anyway. So you might as well do it in this like low risk situation. That way you're ready when you go to sew it later, right? All right, and then look at that dart. That is darting. All right, so now we have our tearawee. I'm gonna make that parallel best I can. Fold that, there we go. All right, so now, this one doesn't have the placket on here, but I do happen to know, wait, maybe this isn't the one I'm thinking of. If I were to line this up here and fold, right? That's the, yeah, so this is the center line here. See, like on the cashmere, how I was saying, that might be the center. This one is the center right there. It ends up being like that, something like that. All right, so now we can look at this and go, I'm looking for shoulder breadth, right? So I'm gonna line up my center backs right here, my shoulder line here, and then I can kind of see where's the armhole. My armhole's a little bit higher, no surprise there, but not by much. Look at that, it's only about a 1/2 inch through 5/8 of an inch higher than their armhole. There's significantly more bust shaping in the tearawee I'm gonna get this. And it does look, I thought it looked shorter, but it's not. This right here, this discrepancy with side seams is the bust start right here, right? So it would be fine. It's a lot longer actually than mine. Oh, wait. Oh, interesting. There's must be different hem lengths because the back is much shorter. I'm pretty sure, or is that really the dart? Oh, that is the dart. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So it's quite a bit longer and it does have more ease. Where's that center line again? Where's the center line on here? I thought this was it. Where's the center line on this shirt? Well, they don't have even a placket thingy. Well, I'm not prepared then there. I'd have to know that center line. I thought that was it. I was doing the center back right there, which works. Right here. The darts are not small, you're right. Boobage for sure. I'm actually just not sure where the center is on the front of this. There could be more, like I was saying at the beginning with the side seam being, could be more to the back because there's more volume in the front. They may have more volume on this right here because of that dart. So like say like if you've ever done a full bust adjustment, you add width across the front. It's basically all you're doing is you're adding width across the front and it could add that. So looks normal to you? Yeah. There's just no center notch here or placket line, so maybe it has a separate placket. But we're gonna go by the yoke right here, right? Because this is also a great way for us to know what our sleeve length is. And we can look at our shoulder breadth. So my shoulders here look broader than theirs. Theirs are more high up. That's interesting. I have not narrow shoulders, not super broad, but I'm definitely pushing the narrow shoulder thing. Oh, okay, there's no notches. There's nothing there. Interesting. So it's like that and that. That would line up with the center back. Okay, cool. Okay. So here we go. We have our sleeve. So now if, let's say, since we haven't done this yet, let's say we wanted to compare sleeve lengths. And I showed you this last time, right? We have our two. I know that people who are tall or have longer arms or shorter arms or they're short or whatever, this is one key area they want to know. Are the sleeves going to be too long or are they going to be too short, right? And so this is one great thing, at least of all the things you can try. You can at least figure out the sleeve length. Because if you look at this and you compare it to your current sleeve, you're like, this is my favorite sleeve. And you match up the cap and you go, oh, they're about the same. Great. Are they? There's no way they are. Look at how different these shoulder lines are. They're like 1.25 inches apart, right? So that means the Muna and Broad sleeve, if the cuff is the same width, would be 1.25 inches shorter than my sleeve. You guys following my math? So let's say you line it up like that, right? On theirs, and then we line up this one. You can see how much longer my sleeve is there? Right? And then you have your cuff, right? Don't ever forget the cuff. Like that I just made that pierce shirt, and that pierce shirt cuff is 1 inch longer than all my other cuffs, are 1 inch wider. So it makes my sleeve 1 inch longer. And I trimmed that off and then lengthened my sleeve so that I didn't lose the overall length. I just didn't want the cuff to be so big, right? So you have to add all your pieces together, you know, make it whole, and then you can compare your two sleeve lengths. I think this is one of the easiest and most important things to set yourself up, because sleeves take up so much fabric. And if you cut your sleeves too short, there's just no going back from that, right? You're like, I guess it's 3/4 sleeves for me, right? So you've really got to compare those things, and that's an easy way to compare. But I can now also look, you know, at the general circumference of this and go, okay, I think this is a little roomier. Let's look at the back since there's no darts. That's how I cheat. I look at the back because there's no darts, right? So if we have this, my red line is my fold line here. Look at how much more room we have here on this pattern. There's a lot of ease. It's much roomier, and that's what it looks like in the photos, which is great. I would love a roomy button-up, right? So, all right, well, I think that I'll leave it there. I feel like this was a little bit of an echo of what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to be a little bit more detailed about how you would update it. Oh, I'm glad, Ray, thanks. The measuring movie. So good, I'm glad. I didn't want to alter all these patterns because I know the time is precious for y'all too. Next week I'm live sewing a garment. I'm making the Echo by Tauco magazine. It's also called Callisto in the magazine. There's 2 views. I do not have a photo of it here, otherwise I would show you. So there's no quick fit next week, but then 2 weeks from now, my next quick fit, I know what my next 2 are. I just don't know which one's first. Let me look really quick. I have a way to check here. Yeah, here we go. It's gonna take forever to open because I'm streaming. This week, so the 20th, let's see. I'm going to be talking about front armhole gape and full bust adjustments. They're not usually together, but I thought I'd talk about both in the same like little session. So, you know, when you get armhole gape right here, or when you need, like how to identify if you need a full bust adjustment or what that is. That's something that was kind of new to me when I started working in the home sewing area. And then the other one I'm going to do is something on back shaping. I am starting to go back to the way I talk about fit adjustments, where I don't talk about them as a way to say what your body is, because, can you hear that plane? Oh my goodness, it sounds like it's fire season or something. I am just increasingly, I've always been uncomfortable with saying you need a round back adjustment. I can see the person, I can tell they don't have a round back. And I don't really like identifying a fit issue based on the body, because that means someone has to look for the fit issue by that. And maybe they don't have that, right? So I am switching back to my wording of saying, you know, this pattern's too flat for you in the back. Everybody needs back shaping. Whether we use it or not is the choice you can make with each pattern, right? You don't have to use it in every garment, but I just really want to underscore that everybody can use a dart back there. It doesn't matter if you have a rounded back or whatever. You need the shaping because you have shoulder blades, right? They are I call it the bust of your back, is your shoulder blades. So that's my other one in March, is back shaping and like certain strategies around it and what you're looking for. So what do you hear? Oh, you heard the plane barely. Okay, yeah. Oh, cool, Jenna. Yeah, I know. I like doing fun things like that. Good, I'm glad, Kim. Cool. All right, well, thanks for coming, you guys. So I'll see you next Wednesday, same time. Loki we got all excited that I'm saying goodbye to you guys. We will do the Echo cutting, sewing, part 1 and part 2. I'm thinking about doing it from here on this machine, but I usually sew things on my industrial at the office, and I miss my industrial. Yep, shoulder blades. We all have them. So, all right. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys soon. Oh, if you're in the guild, pattern chatter tomorrow. Bye.